Claire realized she had married a mama's boy the moment she clashed with his mother, Hedon. Up until then, she had genuinely believed she'd lucked out with a decent man. Daniel wasn't exactly Prince Charming, but she wasn't Marilyn Monroe either. She had no illusions. What mattered more was that he had a gentle voice, kind eyes, and a calm demeanor, and that's exactly what drew her in. Claire had never been someone to jump into relationships. She believed you had to love yourself first, really love yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. Back in college, she was the quiet type, always in the background. Until the day one of her classmates stole her work and submitted it as her own. That's when Claire snapped. She stood up mid-lecture, pointed at the professor and said, "Excuse me, but that's my paper in your hands." Her classmates scoffed and tried to play innocent, but when the professor asked her even basic questions about the content, she failed miserably. Claire, on the other hand, nailed every answer, and added extra insight just for good measure. From that moment on, she changed. People who had always thought of her as a pushover suddenly didn't know what to make of her. But Claire was done playing small. Claire met Daniel later in life, already a strong, independent woman. After college, she landed a solid job where he was already working. As the new girl, Claire quickly caught the attention of most of the male co-workers. Not because she was a classic beauty, but because she had something better: intelligence, poise, and self-respect. She knew how to present herself. Her long, toned legs looked great in a pencil skirt. Her elegant neck stood out with an updo, and her subtle but polished makeup made her look like a business-class Ava Gardner. She wasn't flirtatious, didn't giggle unnecessarily, and only spoke when she had something of value to say. Naturally, most of the women at the office didn't like her. She wasn't playing the social game. But Daniel hovered around her constantly. A solid guy at work, he turned to mush in personal conversation. Nervous, awkward, barely stringing two sentences together. Claire thought it was shyness. She actually liked it. He seemed sincere. She took the first step, helped him out when he stumbled over his words, and little by little, they became a couple. But only after the wedding did she discover the truth. Daniel wasn't just shy. He was his mother's puppet, a full-grown mama's boy. The revelation came crashing down on her very first birthday after they got married. On her birthday, Claire planned a small but cozy gathering: food, drinks, friends, and of course family. Margaret showed up hours early, arms crossed and nose turned up. Claire was actually happy at first. Thought maybe her mother-in-law had come to help. Margaret walked in like she owned the place. "Claire, are you serious? This place is a mess. Aren't you embarrassed? You're the lady of the house." Claire blinked. She looked around. The apartment was spotless. But Margaret wasn't done. She started giving orders, rearranging furniture, and then dropped the bomb. "Whatever plans you had, cancel them. A birthday is a family celebration. I've already invited all of our relatives. Your friends don't belong here." Claire's jaw dropped. What on earth was this woman thinking? She didn't bother arguing. She opened the front door and said flatly, "Out." Margaret gasped like she'd been slapped. That's when Daniel stepped in. And not on his wife's side. "How can you talk to my mother like that? Let her back in or I'm leaving with her." He did. In sweatpants and socks. Claire celebrated without them. And honestly, she had a great time. Daniel returned that night, shamefaced, with flowers and a gift. "She said she's sorry," he mumbled. "And happy birthday." Claire, being Claire, forgave him. She was a forgiving person by nature, and figured it was just a one-time drama. It wasn't. Things were calm for a while. Margaret stayed away, they had some peace. But then Daniel started acting weird. Picking fights. Making snide comments. Spending too much time visiting Mom. Claire didn't react. Not right away. I just watched and waited. One day, Claire got a call from Margaret. "Sweetheart, I need a big favor. Can you come over after work? It's important." "Oh, and bring Daniel with you, would you?" "He's not answering." Claire had a bad feeling but said yes. She found Daniel, told him his mom had requested both of them. He didn't protest. Together, they headed to Margaret's apartment. The moment the door opened, Claire knew it was a trap. "Oh, finally. Took you long enough. And you didn't even bring anything," Margaret scolded. Claire forced a smile. "Hi, Margaret. What's the emergency?" Margaret beamed. "You're here to deep clean the apartment. Tomorrow, my daughter's coming to visit with her new husband. Everything needs to be perfect. Daniel, here's the shopping list. Go buy groceries. Claire, grab a mop. Start in the kitchen and work your way through. No slacking like you did on your birthday." Claire's eye twitched. She looked at Daniel. Nodded. "We should help her," he said. "And my sister deserves a proper welcome." Claire stared at him like he'd grown a second head. She could feel her jaw clenching but forced her voice to stay level. "Okay. But Margaret, don't you think we need cleaning supplies?" "I don't suppose you have any." Margaret blinked. "Not really. I don't use chemicals. Maybe some baking soda. Or mustard powder." Claire turned, walked into the bathroom, and whistled low. The place needed hazmat suits, not mustard. She stepped back into the living room. "Yeah, I'm gonna need stronger stuff. I'll head to our place and bring everything over. Daniel, you go get the groceries. We'll knock this out fast." Margaret smiled. "Good girl." Claire left, but not to get cleaning supplies. She went home and packed all of Daniel's clothes, all of his stuff, everything he owned, into 2 large suitcases. She returned to Margaret's place an hour later and dropped the suitcases in the hallway. Margaret's eyes went wide. "What is all this?" Claire smiled sweetly. "Cleaning supplies. Looks like too much. Oh, trust me. You'll need all of it. It's very industrial." Margaret started to object, but Claire cut her off. "It's probably best if you step out for a while. The chemicals are pretty harsh. Don't want you breathing them in. I'll text you when I'm done. Daniel too." Margaret and Daniel left without arguing. Claire locked the door, dumped Daniel's things all over the apartment, made an epic mess, flour, crumbs, clothes, muddy footprints, then walked out and locked it behind her. She turned off her phone. Margaret and Daniel came back 2 hours later. "She's still not answering," Daniel muttered, trying the door. It was locked. Margaret banged on it. "Claire, we're back. Open up." Silence. Margaret grumbled and pulled out her spare key. The door creaked open. And she screamed. The apartment looked like a crime scene. Clothes everywhere. Food smeared across counters. Smudges on every mirror. Mysterious puddles on the floor. And in the middle of the chaos, 2 wide-open suitcases filled with Daniel's things. "That witch. I'll call the police." Daniel tried to calm her down, but it was no use. Within minutes, officers were at the door. One of them took a look around and raised an eyebrow. "Nothing appears broken. Nothing stolen. And you say your daughter-in-law did this?" "Yes," Margaret shrieked. "She wrecked my home." The officer looked unconvinced. "Well, you can try to prove it, but unless something's damaged or missing, it's a domestic dispute. No laws broken." Daniel sighed. He stepped outside and tried calling Claire. No answer. Not that night. Not the next morning. She had taken his house keys too. He hadn't noticed in the chaos. Meanwhile, Claire slept like a baby. Noise-canceling earbuds, a locked door, and 0 regrets. The next day, she went to the courthouse and filed for divorce. There wasn't much to argue over. The apartment was rented. Daniel didn't have property. Claire had her own small condo she'd kept as a rental, and she moved back in without blinking. When Daniel finally got her to agree to meet, she didn't let him speak for long. "I don't want to hear excuses. I'm done." He looked hurt. "You're really going through with this?" Claire nodded. "Daniel, your mother is your only wife. You've made that clear. And unless you grow a spine, you'll be living with her until the end of time." She grabbed her purse, walked away, and never looked back.